You're standing in a dealer's yard, and in front of you is a Hitachi ZX210. It looks incredible. The orange paint is gleaming in the sun, the tracks look fresh, and the hour meter says something reasonable. You're already thinking about the jobs you can bid on with this thing. But if you've been in this business for more than a few years, you know that a fresh coat of paint is the cheapest thing a dealer can buy. In the used equipment market of 2026, that pristine orange finish is often the only thing standing between you and a $50,000 structural nightmare. In the world of heavy iron, Hitachi has earned a reputation for two specific things: speed and breakout power. They're the thoroughbreds of the excavation world. But as anyone who's ever owned a high-performance machine knows, that speed comes at a price. When you have a machine that can cycle faster than the competition, the operators tend to treat it differently. They push it harder. They use the bucket to pry out boulders they should have blasted. They use hydraulic hammers to pound through frost they should have ripped. Over 5,000 or 6,000 hours of that kind of life, the steel starts to get tired. It develops a memory of every impact it's ever taken. Today I want to take you through a bone-deep inspection of these machines. We're going to look past the shiny paint and the clean cab to find the stress points where the iron actually begins to fail. If you're a contractor or an owner-operator looking to add a Hitachi to your fleet, you need to be hunting for the red flags that most people miss. Because in our world, a failed weld isn't just a repair, it's a catastrophic safety hazard that can bankrupt a small business in a single afternoon. The first place you have to start is the fresh paint trap. When you walk up to a used Hitachi, put your hands in your pockets and stop looking at the color. I want you to look at the texture of the steel. Get up close to the boom and the stick. If you see an orange peel finish or an uneven texture that doesn't quite match the rest of the machine, you need to start asking some hard questions. Why did this machine need a new coat of paint? Sometimes it's just cosmetic, but often it's a way to mask a structural repair. Take a good flashlight and look at the weld beads along the main box of the boom. Hitachi uses robotic welding at the factory. Those beads should be absolutely perfect, uniform, rhythmic, and incredibly clean. If you see a weld that looks like a row of stacked dimes done by a human hand, or if the weld is wider and messier than the others around it, you found a structural repair. You need to focus specifically on the stick or the arm. This is where Hitachis take a massive amount of side load stress. Look for vertical hairline fractures hidden just under the edge of the paint, especially near the cylinder mounts. If that steel has been stressed to the point of cracking and then painted over, the heat from the machine working will eventually cause that new paint to bubble or crack in a very specific straight line. That's not a scratch from a branch. That's the steel crying for help. From there, we have to look at the physics of the machine at the pin bosses. This is where the forensics get interesting. Every major joint on that Hitachi is held together by a pin and a bushing, and the steel housing that holds them is called the pin boss. When an excavator is operated within its engineered limits, those bosses stay perfectly round. But when an operator uses the bucket to pry sideways or hammers on solid rock for months on end, the steel reaches what we call its yield point. It actually begins to stretch and deform. Take a close look at the main pin connecting the boom to the stick. If you see that the boss is no longer a perfect circle, if it looks slightly oval, or if you notice a gap at the top or bottom of the bushing, you're looking at a machine that has been pushed past its breaking point. Once that steel stretches, its structural integrity is gone. You can't just tighten that back up. To fix it correctly, in today's market, you're looking at a process called line boring. By the time you get a specialist out to your yard to line bore a main joint and weld in new bosses, you're looking at a $15,000 to $20,000 invoice. And here's the kicker. If the steel has yielded there, it means the fatigue has moved deep into the grain of the entire arm. If it's stretched in the boss, it's cracking somewhere else that you just haven't found yet. Now let's move to the most critical junction on the entire machine, the neck of the swing frame. This is the massive casting where the boom attaches to the house or the upper structure. Think about the incredible forces focused right here. Every pound of pressure in the bucket, every vibration from a hammer, and the entire weight of that front attachment is concentrated on this one pivot point. On Hitachis, this area is a notorious high-stress junction. I want you to get up on the tracks, pull the side panels if you have to, and look at the base of the boom towers. We're looking for stress riser patterns. To the untrained eye, these look like tiny spider webs in the paint, but to an experienced guy, they are the signatures of metal fatigue. If you see cracks radiating out from the corners of the boom pivot, you are looking at a machine that has been hammered to death. A crack in the swing frame is often a terminal diagnosis. This isn't something you just patch with a stick welder in the field. To fix a swing frame correctly, the entire machine has to be disassembled. The boom comes off, the cab comes off, and the casting has to be preheated and welded by a structural specialist. For a mid-sized Hitachi, that can be a $30,000 to $40,000 death sentence. If you see light coming through a crack in that tower, walk away. Don't look back, and don't let the salesman tell you it's just a surface check. As you continue your walk-around, you need to look at the gusset plates and the stiffeners. Excavators are built with these internal and external plates to help distribute the load across the frame. On a Hitachi, these are strategically placed to handle those high breakout forces. However, these gussets are also the first places where the iron shows its age. Look at the gusset plates where the boom towers meet the main deck. You're looking for separation. If you see a gap between the vertical plate and the horizontal deck, it means the frame is flexing more than it was ever designed to. This is a classic sign of a machine that spent its life with a hydraulic thumb prying out stumps or moving heavy boulders. Another spot to check is the stiffeners underneath the cab. If the machine was used in heavy demolition, the constant vibration causes the welds on these plates to unzip. This leads to a cab that vibrates excessively, which is hard on the operator, but more importantly, it means the spine of the upper structure is compromised. If the stiffeners are cracked, the main frame rails are usually soon to follow. It's like a house with a cracked foundation. Everything else might look fine, but the structure is fundamentally unsound. Now we have to get dirty. We're going to crawl underneath the machine to look at the H-frame. This is the part most buyers skip because it's covered in mud and grease, but it's where the truth lives. The H-frame is the central car body that connects the tracks to the upper house. It is the foundation of the entire excavator. On a used Hitachi, you need to look at the four corners where the track frames are welded to that central car body. This is a massive weld, but it is under incredible torque every time the machine turns or travels over uneven ground. Look for vertical cracks in these welds, and keep an eye out for what we call rust bleed. If you see a crack with rust orange liquid bleeding out of it, that is a giant red flag. It means the crack is deep, and the metal is rubbing together, creating metal dust that is oxidizing. It's a sign of a living crack that is actively moving. If that H-frame starts to separate, the machine will eventually lose its alignment. Your swing gear will start to bind, your tracks will wear unevenly, and eventually, the machine will literally tear itself apart from the bottom up. While you're down there, take a look at the track motor housings and the bottom of the car body casting. Hitachis are fast, and operators love to tram them across rocky terrain at high speeds. If you see that the bottom of the car body is dented or dished upward, it means the machine has taken a massive impact. But we are looking for something even more specific: vertical cracks in the track motor mounts. Because the track motors sit out on the ends, they act like levers. If the machine is dropped off a trailer or driven over a high stump, that impact is transferred directly into the housing. A crack here is often hidden by layers of grease, but if that housing fails, your final drive will literally fall off the machine. In today's market, a new final drive and the structural repair to the frame will cost you more than the machine is probably worth at auction. So, after you've scanned the boom, checked the pin bosses, inspected the swing towers, and crawled under the H-frame, you have to make a choice. This is where you perform your financial triage. You have to differentiate between cosmetic wear and terminal fatigue. Small cracks in the sheet metal or the catwalks? That's just the cost of doing business. You can fix that with a grinder and a welder in an hour. But any crack in a load-bearing member, the boom towers, the main boom box, the stick, or the H-frame, is a different story entirely. In the 2026 market, the cost of specialized labor has reached a point where you have to be very careful. A structural welder who is certified to work on T1 high-tensile steel, which is what these Hitachis are made of, is going to charge you a premium. And if you have to send a boom off to be stress-relieved in an oven after a major repair, you're often better off just buying a different machine. Hitachi makes a hell of a machine. They're the favorite of operators for a reason. They are fast, they are smooth, and they can move more dirt in an hour than almost anything else in their class. But because they are so capable, they are often the most abused machines on the used market. Don't let the fresh paint and the shiny logo blind you to the reality of metal fatigue. Steel has a memory, and eventually it forgets how to hold together. Your job as a buyer is to find the machine that still has a long life ahead of it, not one that's ready to become a very expensive orange yard ornament. Check those 6 spots, get under the machine, and keep your flashlight handy. If the steel is sound, a Hitachi will make you a millionaire. If the steel is junk, it'll be the most expensive mistake you ever make. Thanks for joining me on the yard today. Stay safe, stay sharp, and I'll see you on the next job site.